Hello again, Strokepup. Today I'm bringing you another Warhammer Chaosbane build video, and this one is for Konrad the Soldier. This one uses the Blazing Herald set that gives us the heroic shield the charge. That's why I've decided to call the build the Blazing Charge build. It is kind of similar to the Holy Justice build for the Someone's Justice set I've made a few days ago. And it's definitely not as strong. It's definitely not as strong. The recorded footage was done in Chaos 7, so it can do Chaos 7. It's kind of falling short when it comes to the damage. It can survive. It stacks the same survivability as the other build, but it definitely needs a lot of damage, and the problem is the cooldown reduction. We are not able to spam as much as a Someone's build can allow us to. A Someone's build allows us to spam meteors from Holy Justice all the time. This build, when you see something like this happening, you against 2-3 enemies, you wanna move on to the next group of enemies. Especially if it's 1v1, you definitely don't wanna be there. You're using the Blade of Vengeance, which requires you to get hit to start walking, to get 20 stacks of damage based off of blocks to reach that 400% extra damage. So you can see how this build can be perfect for support for a team, because he pulls the enemies in a vacuum, similar to a Diablo 3 Condemn build. This one can be great for teaming up with other AoE build classes like a mage with AoEs or Bragi with AoEs. It would be perfect. Even with another Konrad, you would be able to pull per se the enemies together close for the meteors of a Someone's build. So it's not a meta build, but I hope you enjoyed, and stay tuned to see the skills, god skills and gear I suggest using. The skills that were used when recording the video look like this. We have Incisive Breakthrough, Shielded Charge Heroic, Master Sigmar's Blessing for extra damage and block chance, the banner for extra damage reduction, which together with this gives us even more damage reduction and some damage. Then break through the ranks just for mobility. This can be replaced with anything else if you don't want it. And Sigmar's Bastion, which is our main healing skill, and it gives us damage reduction and crit chance, which is perfect. Then this one, it could be superior or it could be mastered. If it is mastered, then we downgrade this, and I'm gonna show you in a moment how we do this, and then we can use duelist chain reaction. So this setup has various ways how you can do it, but I will show you two. Then we have Blessings of the Brave. This is a great source of DPS for us. And then we have Scrolls of the Elders, which is only used when I'm using Divine Judgment Superior, because this basically makes Divine Judgment Superior to Divine Judgment Mastered. So it's pretty nice. But this only works on champions. So mind you, that's only useful against champions. This works against anything. Now, Herald of the Empire Mastered, as I said, works very well with that, and then Hero of the Desert, a bit of extra damage reduction, health, and other goodies. And this one is just, again, a bit of flavor from me, extra damage. So those two you can replace with any other one you want. But I like to play them that way. So the other version, as I told you, is something like this, using this thing here, just the basic one. We're losing 20% damage when doing that, and then we use this one, and then instead of this or this, we use duelist chain reaction. If your cooldown is high enough, use duelist chain reaction as the setup, and here maybe you can use a potion for extra damage or anything else. Just find a balance between what you like and what fits your playstyle more. For the legendary rank, I was using this one for 20% chance legendary punishment, but if you need damage reduction, you can try and take crushing or endurance. which is also quite nice. This one applies to the enemy, this one applies to you. So decide whether you want the buff to be on you or on the enemy. This one will not be advised unless you replace something with taunt, like break through the ranks can be replaced with taunt, and that would work well for a cooldown reduction based setup. If you have more cooldown reduction than me, I've only got 51%, so replacing incisive breakthrough might be better for this setup with the duelist chain reaction. Now let's show you the god skills. This is how I have set up the god skills. There are multiple ways how to do it, but the basic version of it is going all the way here to Blessing of the Brave and stopping. Then going all the way here to Divine Judgment Mastered and stopping. And now you have to decide, what do you need more? Do you need cooldown or do you need damage or do you need crit damage? So one way is, if you need cooldown, you can get 6 points invested here for some energy, damage, bonus damage to champions and cooldown reduction for the price of HP. Another way would be to take this damage, crit damage, and then to take those 3 points here for damage, block damage, reduction, damage, and maximum energy. Or like I did. Here you have 2% damage, 6 cooldown reduction, and 30 crit damage, and then this damage. So with this setup you get 60 crit damage and 14 damage and 6 cooldown reduction. It is probably the best balanced option to do this. This is the gear that I was using when recording the footage. We have the Herald of the Blazing Sunset, we have a Thrice-Blessed Copper Medal, Blade of Vengeance, and for the rings I was using Retribution and Fortitude because I have great ones. But you could try and replace something like Fortitude for Resurgence. And you can try and use other things like which was it, Fortification. Fortification is also great, but since I do think this build, unlike the other one with the Justice skill, unlike the Solon build, this one needs cooldown reduction. Solon can poop cooldown reduction from the set itself. It comes from everywhere. You're like pooping a cooldown reduction from just getting hit. So this build kind of needs cooldown reduction, and I think it's the best place to get it via a Signet Ring of Retribution. That's why I was using this. So for survivability, 3 choices: Fortitude, Resurgence, and Fortification. The medal needs to be Thrice-Blessed Copper Medal, because this is what allows us to heal with every beam with this skill. So every time I do that beam, that heals me. This is amazing, and it also heals you when you use Sigmar's Blessing. But of course the cooldown, this is pretty long. This one has shorter cooldown and then you can beam, and it's amazing. Now for the amulet, if you don't have this one, you might wanna maybe get the one for the cooldown and try and play a bit safer. You can probably survive without a Thrice Blessed. So yeah, I think the second best option would be the Sacred Fire Medal. If you have a very good road one, probably worth using it. And then maybe you can try and remove the Signet, the Signet of Retribution, and replace it with something else. You can experiment with rings like the Purple Signet ring for extra damage, but overall I think this is the most optimal setup. So for the blade, it must be a Blade of Vengeance, and with that we can get up to 400%, which is 20 stacks of 20. For the shield, it must be any shield you want. It doesn't matter what shield you're using, but the Shield of Revenge and the Medic's Pavis are the ones that work best with this set. I think this one gives us counterattack damage based on block damage, which this slightly benefits from the counterattack damage, but it's not by much. Like if I were to remove this shield, I'm gonna lose some counterattack, 3000. And this is 349. When I equip it, this goes to 402. So it's like 1/6, 1/7 of the damage being added. But yeah, if you have more block damage, of course this works and adds more. And this procs, this procs off of works off of the counter attack damage. So I think this is the best source for the gauntlets and all other armor pieces. Main stats, of course, are armor and HP. On the helmet, you want cooldown reduction together with the HP. On the boots, you might want speed, but it really is not something that is a must-have. And on the gauntlets, you want damage. Damage over time doesn't do much for you, so I would try and get armor, damage, HP, and then maybe something good like resistance to damage over time or health regeneration. Wood quality is always nice, but it's not a must-have. It's only good when you're doing a farming set, and I wouldn't do the farming set on this set most likely. Energy, you really don't need that much on this build, so stay away from it. But prioritize armor and health on all pieces, and here on the gauntlets get damage and crit damage. On the boots and everything else, try and get resistance to damage over time together with health regeneration, and counter attack damage everywhere would help you get a little bit more damage for the shielded charge. I think this kind of sums up everything when it comes to... Oh yeah, I still need to tell you about the shield and sword perfect rolls. You probably are seeing those on your screen, but yeah, for the shield you want cooldown reduction, crit chance, damage, and then crit damage and armor piercing would help you, but you do want a good roll on the block chance and block damage as well. HP is amazing, so this shield is kind of very well rolled. The only thing I would have changed here would have been the wood quality for some extra crit damage, and I think it is possible to get crit damage. Yeah, you can get some crit damage with this one. So this is kind of a almost perfect roll here. For the Blade of Vengeance, if you can't find a good Blade of Vengeance, ideally you can try and maybe replace it with the Grudge Settler, but that means you would have to use Taunt. And Break Through the Ranks would work to be replaced with Taunt, so it's not gonna give you as much, it's not gonna give you 400% damage, it's gonna give you only 100, but it's still something. But the rolls you want here are cooldown reduction, flat damage, HP, which I'm missing, then you want damage, you want armor piercing, crit damage, and in here what I would replace would be the cost reduction for HP. And you want crit chance. I really could have used some crit chance. Can this actually get crit chance? Maybe just the shield. The shield is the one with the crit chance, so you want the crit damage here. So on this one I think I've got almost a perfect row. Cost reduction can be replaced for HP, counter attack damage, as I said, this build benefits from. So something like this is a perfect row. Armor piercing, cooldown reduction, crit damage, HP, and counter attack damage. I don't think anything else is worth it, like damage over time or whatever else you can get. So that should be it for the gear. Playing the build is pretty easy, and it's kind of similar to how the Soul's build is played. Gather a bunch of enemies, group them up together, plant your banner and start using your god skills, then start using your shield the charge and try to spam shield the charge as much as you can and Sigmar's Bastion as much as you can. Keep Sigmar's Blessing on you at all times, so reuse it as soon as it's ready, and just keep doing that. Grouping enemies, planting banner, and spamming the healing and damage dealing skills. If there's damage over time fields on bosses, use those, because they would help you gather up some vengeance stacks. You want those vengeance stacks to be gathered up to as high as possible. That's why you want as many enemies as possible. You can see the damage is nowhere near what heroic Justice of the Empire with the Sullen set can do, but it can still do something. It is still a different way of playing it, and if you don't have a good Sullen set, maybe you might want to experiment with this. Not the meta, but it is fun. And definitely when you're playing with another person like a dwarf or a mage or anyone else that can dish out AoEs, it is amazing to group up the enemies for a follow-up. Now you can see on the boss, it's not as fast, it's nowhere near as fast as you might want it to. This is Chaos 7, just a basic relic hunt. And you can see I'm trying to stay inside this burning field, but the problem is shielded charge gets me off of the burning field quite often. It's pretty difficult to make sure that the shielded charge doesn't put you too far away. So now I try to take some more enemies so they can hit me and keep my vengeance stacks up. But in the end I guess it's better to just stay in the fire field and rely on the boss hitting you. It could probably work a bit better if you on bosses if you try to do the setup with Taunt and with basic Sigmar's Blessing instead of the Mastered, and maybe using the Duelist Chain Reaction, but even then I didn't see that much difference. I tried it on stream last night and it wasn't that big of a difference. So the main problem on bosses is when there's difficulties to get the vengeance stacks up to 20. But overall, it's kind of an unkillable build still. Even with the little HP I had under 300,000, it was pretty unkillable, pretty easy to deal with this boss. Maybe with some other bosses it might be a bit more difficult to deal with them, but the Jabber's Wight definitely is one of the easier enemies that you can encounter. You can see this together with a good damage dealer in the team would be a good combo though. You saw me pushing and pulling the enemies together, and it works even on the push skill, even on breaking through the ranks. It doesn't have to be a regular attack or an attack skill. Break through the ranks work as well for pulling the enemies together and setting them up for a follow-up attack from your teammates. Thank you for watching the video, folks. If you've enjoyed it, you can subscribe to my channel to get updated for future Warhammer, Chaosbane, Torchlight Frontiers, WoW and Borderlands 3 content. You can also let me know whether you liked or disliked the video by hitting the corresponding buttons and leaving me a comment with some info about what you liked or didn't. Thank you again for watching the video. Keep it cool, and until next time. Goodbye.